Hello and welcome to the Turn by Turn podcast. My name is Daniel and I'm joined as always with my co-host Alex. This is episode 1 of our 2-part series on our hopes for future RPG games. In our first episode, we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings, Golden Sun, Mass Effect, Star Wars, and Pokemon. So Alex, do you want to get us started with Lord of the Rings?
I would love to. So if you don't know what Lord of the Rings is, no, I'm just kidding. I hope you know what Lord of the Rings is. But my argument sort of is that Lord of the Rings has had a better time. The franchise has had a lot of great games. The Third Age, Battle for Middle-earth 1 and 2, Shadow of Mordor, and I even really liked Conquest, which was not a well-liked one. It was the guys that made Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original. Pandemic made a Lord of the Rings game in that same style, and it was... much less thought was put in, and I could tell that, and it was not balanced at all, but it was still just fun to run around in. And on top of all that, Daniel was asking me before we started the episode if I've ever played the movie tie-ins, and not only have I played them, I think they are maybe the best movie tie-in games ever made.
I would totally agree with that, and just to hop on real quick, I think that I would remake those as like a turn-based RPG, somewhat in the flavor of Golden Sun, where you have like a couple of your characters. You get to choose their attacks similar to the Third Age. What do you think about that?
Maybe. I think that we would like it, but also the way that it's trending, the industry is trending, I think it would be more accepted today to make it an action RPG, sort of like Final Fantasy VII's remake. Mm-hmm. My thoughts were I'd be really excited for them to just branch out again and just make more games. And I don't really need them to expand the story much more at this point. I know the Tolkien estate, who is in charge of Tolkien stories now, they get pretty weird and hesitate a lot on new people doing things with the IP. And I'm kind of glad they do. They're very protective of it. And I think that generally benefits them. But yeah, my notes I wrote down, just let me play through the main story again. Or do a game based on a book that never got a game or anything else.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And I think that a lot of the other not Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit stories are really kind of depressing and sad, which I think would probably cater pretty well to the gaming environment right now, where everything's more of like kind of dark and gritty. Darker, sadder stories might fare better now than they would have even like 10 years ago.
Yeah, we could do the if you get really late in the Lord of the Rings timeline, you get to do like the invasion of the Shire. The orcs like come back and invade the Shire and like lead the hobbits away in chains, and it's all very dark. So we could definitely do that. And I think the Tolkien fans would really be into that too, because just any sort of recognition of these other books, I think they get pretty jazzed about.
Mm-hmm. You could even make kind of a cool Silmarillion game.
Silmarillion.
Oh, did I say silver? I always do that. But you could make an awesome game like that. Only like a quarter of the people would understand.
But I think that's part of the nature of the Lord of the Rings, sort of, that Tolkien did all of these works in Middle-earth, but people only know what the Lord of the Rings is because of the movies. That's not to say like that's bad. The movies, I think, are fantastic. Again, like we said, the games were maybe the best game versions or game tie-ins of a movie. I think the Lord of the Rings trilogy might be the best movie version of a novel.
Oh, absolutely. The movies are just fantastic.
They are. And I've read the books, too, a long time ago. And I know that the movies are not one-to-one, but I just feel like they really capture the essence of what the story is and how it's supposed to make you feel.
The books read a lot more like history books in a lot of ways. Like there is obviously narrative to it, but there's a lot of the passing of the kingdom to this kingdom, to this king, to that king. And it's a pretty heavy reading. So they do a really good job distilling the content down to like a really watchable movie. And like a lot of the stuff they leave out would be awesome if they would have like recorded even more, like even an even longer extended edition, because I feel like people would sit through it.
Yeah, for sure. That's why, like, to jump off a little bit, I was really, really excited for the Snyder Cut for the similar reasons. The Snyder Cut of Justice League, because I'm like, DC's movies right now tend to be, in my opinion, pretty good when they're not cut down as much. I liked Batman versus Superman's extended edition. I liked Suicide Squad's extended edition. And I thought that both of those editions made those movies a lot better. And we've gotten to the point where they don't even acknowledge that Batman versus Superman has an unextended edition. Like on streaming, the extended edition's your only option.
If something has value, people will be willing to sit through like a 3-hour movie as long as they feel like there's a reason to be there, not a lot of filler and extra crap that like has them lose interest or like side plots. Like if something is worth watching, you'll sit there for 4 hours and watch it. You might want a break in between, but like it'll hold your interest.
So I would just really hope, like, not a gaming take for franchises, but movie take. I really hope we get back into here's a 4-hour movie, watch it at your leisure. And we can do like what Avengers did as well and split it into half like they did with Endgame and Infinity War. I'm fine with that. Or Harry Potter did Harry Potter 7 part 1 and 2. Like, that's fine as long as you make it easily segueable for me to sit and watch both back to back if I want to.
And the same goes for gaming, to bring it back. I'm happy to sit through a 60-hour game as long as it feels like it's worth my time. As a recent player of 3 Houses, I've put in like 90 hours, and I'm happy to keep going because I feel like I'm using my time well.
Speaking of using your time well, the most recent Lord of the Rings game we got was Shadow of War, and that one I really didn't like. I didn't actually play it because I looked at stuff about it and saw how it was monetized and immediately knew that it was not going to use my time well. And that's been reflected in a lot of the reviews I watched. Especially the end of the game just becomes a massive slog because you're supposed to have all these orcs on your side to take these giant castles, but your orcs get killed really fast. And you've got to take a lot of time grinding to go recruit more. But you can, of course, buy loot boxes to replenish your stores of orcs. And to me, this completely trivialized their nemesis system, which is supposed to be about you having greater relationships with the orcs around you. But as far as I heard, the end of the game is just really, really long. And all of this takes a long time if you're not paying because they want to incentivize you to pay. But again, you're not going to get the relationship then with those orcs that are supposed to comprise your army. So I just avoided that one. And the only other game we know of that's coming up, I don't know if you were aware of this, Daniel, but they are making a Gollum game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just the other day, they announced the first trailer for it, and it doesn't show much. It's more of like a conceptual thing. And yeah, my response was very similar to yours. Oh, really? Like, I don't know if I need a full game where I get to play as Gollum, but like, I guess I'm open to it. I don't know how you feel about that.
It wouldn't be on any lists that I would make. I guess if it wasn't following the main movie line, like if it was giving me like kind of the behind the scenes, like the main story of him back when he was a hobbit, sure, that could be interesting.
It appears to be about after that, but not the main line of the movie still. It seems to be sort of the things that he's been up to beyond that. It's more behind the scenes.
Yeah, that doesn't stand out as something that I'd be interested in. Just thinking of, like, does the game end with you being tortured by ring wraiths?
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I can't picture there being a convincing story there without it being super forced.
Mash the A button as they scald your feet with hot coals. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm also trying to give the benefit of the doubt a little bit that like it takes a lot to make a game, and if it was like that bad of an idea, somebody probably would have shot it down already. So I'm assuming they just maybe know something I don't, and I'm gonna kind of keep my eye on it to see what it comes out to.
Seems fair to me.
That's about all I have for Lord of the Rings. I don't really care what genre even we get to at this point. I just would like some more Lord of the Rings games that are a little bit different. That would be nice.
Sure. So how about we hop into my next pick, which is Golden Sun. This one's a little different because we've gotten 3 Golden Sun games so far, 2 that are directly one after the other, and then one that happens about 20, 30 years later, which is called Dark Dawn, which was not, it got decent reviews, but nothing earth-shattering. And the creators have basically gone on the record saying, like, well, if you want a sequel, you're going to have to fight for it and like beg Nintendo to make it. So there's not a lot of like forward motion on a potential sequel. So we're kind of stuck pondering the potential without a lot of hope of actually getting it. I was trying to think of what way you could bring back that universe where it'd revive the interest in it, because the only sort of interest in it at the moment is, well, depending on when you're listening to this, is Isaac being a heavily coveted character for Super Smash Brothers, sort of like a grassroots push for that. And to date, it hasn't happened yet. And it'd be very cool if he did, because it would bring back the interest in the game. But for like a future game, assuming that we get one, I was thinking it'd be cool to have it be like a future-based game where Golden Sun, just real quick, the unique parts of it are that the characters have psi energy, which is kind of like a magic energy, just to put it really briefly, and then Jin partners that go along with you, which are sort of like Pokemon. So I was thinking sort of like a borderline like post-apocalyptic game where like the psi energy is sort of like running out, and you are like leading a group of characters that have like the last remaining psi energy left, and trying to figure out how to restore it to the world would be kind of a cool angle for a sequel. Does that sound like something that interests you at all, Alex?
Yeah. Golden Sun's been on my list for a long time, and I don't know why I haven't gotten to it yet, but I didn't even know there were 3 Golden Sun games. I thought it was just the one. There's already more than I realized, but I think you're right in that if he became a Smash playable character, he's an assist trophy at the moment, it would definitely, even outside of just interest, whenever Nintendo does something like that, it seems like they feel a push to do something with the character. And so I think that it would definitely, at minimum, get those games ported to Switch, which would definitely make them more accessible. And then, yeah, potentially a push for a new game. And I'd be interested in that. I'm interested in all those like cult following RPGs like Chrono Trigger 2 that just have people that if a game has been around for a long time and people just seem to not let it die, a lot of the times there's a reason for that.
I think the fan base for Golden Sun is very probably disheartened. Since Chrono Trigger is fresh in my mind, the future aspect of Chrono Trigger is really interesting. And I think it could match well with Golden Sun, which it wouldn't hinge on you having played the original games. If you did it so far in the future, that it would give you sort of a new entry point for the franchise while still acknowledging that the other games exist. And you could have like cool Easter eggs to the original 3 games without having to rely on them to have the lore of the game work.
I'm curious as to what you see the art style of it being. Like, is it going to be 2D again in your mind? Is it 3D now? Like, what is the vision?
I would probably keep it the same, the 2D. I think you could take it in almost like Fire Emblem Three Houses sort of style, but I think that keeping it the 2D almost pixel art, if that, the thing is, I love pixel art games.
I do too,
but it's not as popular anymore, other than like really cool game devs who are like keeping it alive with their indies. But keeping it in the original style, I think would be great, because the style is pretty sophisticated, even for like the Game Boy Advance when it came out. So I think that it might hold up strong enough to continue that style without like too much pitchback of it not looking like anime enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's where I'd like to see that one go.
I don't even know if anime is like, I know people use that as an insult sometimes, like, because I like Fire Emblem, you know, people are like, I don't like it because I don't like anime. But where we are, I saw that the manga series Demon Hunter, I just saw this stat this past week. Demon Hunter in this quarter has apparently outsold all of American comics.
Wow.
So I'm just like, yeah, you might not like anime, and that's totally fine. Like, there's times that I go through stretches like that too, but it definitely is on an upward trajectory, the limits of which we still have not seen.
Oh yeah, my little brother loves anime, and he was telling me that he started watching this one called One Piece, and he was telling me it's 900 episodes long. So like, if you wanted to jump in, it's quite the time commitment. But if it's gone on for 900 episodes, there's a good chance that it's a pretty quality show and people like it.
Yeah,
so it's one of the never most, been anime in a bad way.
It's one of the most popular ones, and it's been a while, but I remember saying the author say that it was like halfway done or something like a while back. So he plans on keeping it going for a while still.
Good.
Yeah. You ready to jump to my next one?
Let's do it.
All right. My next one is Mass Effect, to jump from fantasy to sci-fi. I loved Mass Effect 1 through 3 because it's a in-depth RPG space opera. And I'm kind of explaining this to you guys if you haven't played it, and also to Daniel, who hasn't played it. You get to make tons of choices and explore the galaxy in your ship, the Normandy. I got super into Mass Effect when I was playing it, and I didn't play it. I played it for the first time not that long ago, but I got so into it. I was reading the books. I was watching YouTube content about the lore. I even watched the movie. They made an animated movie, which I did not know. It's a prequel to Mass Effect 3, if you're wondering. And this was all going really, really great. I was really hopeful about the franchise's future. And then Mass Effect Andromeda came out. Are you aware of the conversation around Mass Effect Andromeda at all?
I'm not. I'm just totally on the outside looking in on this one.
That's fine. The point of Andromeda was basically the original Mass Effect trilogy was really, really great. But they were like, well, we don't want to like touch it because it's so great. So the point of Mass Effect is that a alien race called the Reapers are coming back to our galaxy after a long absence, and they will cleanse all life from our galaxy. And so we need to fight them. And there's different ways you can do that and different ways you can go about that. I've really loved too, and it's not really a spoiler because you eventually do get to talk to one, and your main character, whose default named Shepard, you can ask him this Reaper, why they do this. And he just looks down at you and says, our purpose is beyond your understanding. And I just thought that was so cool that like there's this whole space, you know, it just felt so alien. The whole thing felt so alien that there's this super advanced race that believes you could not even begin to fathom why they do what they do. The idea behind Andromeda is that as a precaution, if they succeeded in wiping out all life from our galaxy, we would send a couple of each race to the Andromeda galaxy to live and start repopulating there, which to me on paper sounds like a fantastic idea. In reality, it was really poorly written, really poorly thought out, and just really poorly made. You can just, I mean, if you YouTube it for half a second, you'll find like some of the facial animations are just abysmal. At one point in one of the cutscenes, a character points a gun and she's holding the gun backwards. Like, it's stuff that I don't even know how happened. Yeah, that comes out and train wrecked the series so hard that they said the series as a whole was going to be shelved indefinitely. There would be no more books, no more games, no more anything. Because they were like, yeah, this is clearly not going to be what we want it to be. And that made me super sad. I don't know if they've gone against that, really. We've just seen the release of the trilogy again, and they've called it the Legendary Edition, which is all fine and good. I like having all three in one package with all the DLC. But from what I've seen thus far, and to be fair, I've not seen much. Some of the stills I've seen do not look very good. They look kind of like Andromeda again, with really janky facial animations and weird like lighting things. And when you're selling the games as a visual upgrade more than anything else, that's not a good boat to be in. So I don't know if it's going to resurrect the series. And part of this, I know, is just BioWare, the developers behind it, really losing themselves, I think. And for evidence of that, I don't think you have to look any further than Anthem. They thought Anthem would do well, and we see how that went. Are you familiar with Anthem at all?
Are you talking about the book by Ayn Rand?
No, though I've read the book.
Then no.
Anthem, BioWare was famous for two things: Mass Effect and Dragon Age. And both of these are sort of series where you just get to make lots of dialogue choices, similar to Knights of the Old Republic for Star Wars. Mass Effect was actually made as a result of Knights of the Old Republic, that they wanted to do more and were not really able to, and didn't want to be bound by Star Wars anyway. So they made their own lore. So that team, I guess, whatever's left of it, because I know people leave over the years, they thought they would make a game called Anthem where you sit in like an Iron Man suit and it's like a shooter more than anything. It's like a looter shooter, sort of like Borderlands or Diablo. And apparently, like, you can look up a lot of stuff about how that went down internally. And I don't mean to insult the developers on the ground level, who seem like they knew it was a really bad idea and they were just doing their best with not nearly enough time or resources. But like, higher ups, come on. So this gets to, what do I think they should do? I think they should just try to do another game like Andromeda, completely detached from the trilogy, and just put more time and effort in. The lore, reading the books, says that when humans discovered the larger galaxy, we had a war with a race called the Turians, which is the same race that one of the main characters is, named Garrus. So we could play through that war as an earlier version of humanity that's just discovering all of the galaxy. And since you're not familiar, the way we discovered the galaxy, I thought was really cool. It was that we're essentially as we are now in terms of technology, but we figured out that one of Pluto's moons was not actually a moon, and we weren't sure what it was. So we eventually were able to get a manned spacecraft out past Pluto, and we found like a warp gate out there that would shuttle us to basically the center of the universe. And there were lots of other races, and they were sort of waiting for humanity to evolve enough to take a seat at the table. But we weren't supposed to discover it that early. So we obviously got into trouble and fight this war. And I just think it'd be really interesting seeing the reactions of the humans to alien life in that world, like the first reactions, and some people wanting to make peace, and the more military hawk types assuming we've got to fight because obviously these aliens will do us harm. So I thought that could be pretty epic.
I think that sounds like a really cool concept for a game.
I'm glad. My only worry would be that part of the magic of Mass Effect is having all the companions that are from all these diverse races. So I definitely think it would put a little bit of a damper on it to just have humans, but I thought maybe we could go around that by having it doesn't say in the lore, I don't think, that we were always by ourselves. Maybe you could be like a strike force and get some allies from other races that are fighting the Turian for their own reasons, or I don't know how you could swing it, but maybe you could do something like that. That's about all I've got for Mass Effect, though.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to jump right into Star Wars.
Hi there, I'm David.
And I'm Kate.
And we're the hosts of another Zelda podcast.
There are so many good podcasts out there, and some of them in particular concern The Legend of Zelda.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. That is actually the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We have top 10 lists.
Yeah, we do deep dives on game design and production aspects of the different Zelda games.
And we talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. Really just almost anything that has to do with Zelda, we like to talk about it. A new episode comes out every other Friday, and you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
That's right. All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Mike.
And we are brothers-in-law. We both love beer and are amateur home brewers.
Wait, so does that make us brothers-in-law?
I believe so.
Every episode, we will talk about aspects of beer and home brewing.
But nothing super technical because we're learning this too.
So join us as we sit down together and dive into something beer-related.
Whether it's a little field research, tasting a certain beer style, or beers from a specific brewery.
Talk about our experiences brewing beer at home, including our own solo brews, as well as themed competitions we'll set up along the way.
We will also talk about some of our favorite aspects of brewing, like hops, extra ingredients, building our brew cave, and more. And of course, our own misadventures that have happened along the way.
So, if you like beer, are home brewing already,
or if you have an interest in home brewing and don't know where to start,
join us on Brothers-in-Law Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And make sure to follow us on Twitter @Brothers-in-Law and check out our website, brothersinlaw.com.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Do you want to pop into Star Wars?
Sure. So I put Star Wars on the list, but I know we both have opinions on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately, Daniel thought I would be talking about Knights of the Old Republic 3, and I am. Fans have clamored about Knights of the Old Republic 3 ever since Knights of the Old Republic 2 came out. People wanted more of that era, more companions, more drama to cut through with a lightsaber. But especially a lightsaber of their own design, with the great companions by their side. The best thing I think that Lucasfilm and BioWare could possibly do for us at this point is don't. This is just my opinion, obviously, and I know some of you are going to want to crucify me, but I used to be massively into the Star Wars universe. I read every novel I could get my hands on, played all the games, read the comics. But the stories of the new movies, shows, games, and stuff are just not of the same quality. My hottest take of the day, and I warned Daniel that I would have some hot takes, is that even the new show that's highly acclaimed, The Mandalorian, is just okay. I just think people have forgotten what a great Star Wars story is because it's been so long that a fairly decent story seems to be the best thing ever again.
Okay. Well, let me take that and raise you my idea.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to leave the Luke Skywalkers and Rey's out of this, and we're going to go back to the beginning of the universe for this.
Ooh.
So we're going to have the first recorded Jedi or like Force user exist. And the game's going to be from their perspective, and it's going to be an RPG, and it's going to be like a build your team sort of like Shining Force Fire Emblem type game where you're the first Force user and you're slowly building your network of like humans that you are humans, aliens, what have you. And you slowly build your team and do like turn-based like tactical map style battles. And it's you navigating the fact that you've developed force powers. And I'll put it in the hands of Lucasfilm, whoever is working on the video game side of things, to develop why that is. But the very, very beginning, before everything else, the very first beings in the universe. Does that have any interest?
I mean, yes and no. It has interest to me, but I'd also be terrified because the part of it is that I understand there's a lot of weight. Star Wars has grown into just such a behemoth that to take on a story like that so many people care about, the pressure would just be enormous not mess it up, I guess. And I kind of have my thoughts on that. Like my next sort of thing I was going to go to sort of expands on that. The reason I say not to do anything like that is because the story is what makes Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. It really doesn't have interesting gameplay, in my opinion. I think that BioWare figured out a lot better gameplay later on. And so it doesn't have gameplay to fall back on like Fallen Order, one of the more recent games did. And even that, I didn't think it was a fantastic story, but the gameplay was fun enough that it didn't really matter. Knights of the Old Republic, like what you were saying, expanded the lore to just this whole new era. But back then it gave us fan favorite characters like Revan and HK-47. It lets you make all your own choices as to how good or bad you would be, and these impacted the galaxy in different ways. This scares me because current day Lucasfilm tried to do a villain story in Battlefront 2, the more recent one. And slight spoilers, it was terrible. They marketed it as you playing as a stormtrooper and seeing sort of the decline of the Empire from the bad guy's side. And it had been a really long time since we'd gotten to be a bad guy. You change, like, slight story spoilers. You change sides from the Empire to the Rebellion almost immediately, as the main character's entire moral compass flips in about a day. She calls the rebels terrorists and thinks destroying Alderaan was for the greater good. But then the Empire wants to destroy another planet full of innocents, and now she thinks for some reason it's too far. Like, it just really didn't go well. And so I don't believe the same people in charge of that and the sequel trilogy could competently write a new Revan story or new characters like Mitra Surik, Kreia, Visas Mar, HK-47, etc. Mm-hmm. So they would definitely have to bring in, for your idea, an outside author. And I have my picks, like Drew Karpyshyn, the guy that wrote The Old Republic 1 and 2. Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, I mean. And he also did the Darth Bane trilogy. So if they got somebody like that to write it, I'd be a lot more interested. And as far as the gameplay you described, I mean, that's perfect for you and me, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, I'm trying to come up with some, like, what would they really make, you know? Because there's no way that your idea would be anything less than a giant behemoth of a game, too. Like,
well, that'd be the idea. Bigger the better.
Yeah, for sure.
They have the money.
Yeah, if that is one thing that they have, it is money. They have all of the money.
Yes.
My more realistic idea, I think, was that there's been whispers of a remaster of Knights of the Old Republic 1 for a really long time. But I'm just still skeptical. I'm very jaded at this point, and I'm sure that's obvious. But I'd be worried about them adding some sort of, quote, new features that help you make, quote, better choices or something. Modern day BioWare, as I just talked about in Mass Effect, is also just not what they used to be. And it'd feel really weird to just call up another studio and ask them to continue it. Because to me, who BioWare was also linked to Knights of the Old Republic as much as what Lucasfilm was. BioWare was, you know, an upstart gaming company that was trying to make a little Star Wars RPG, and they did the best they could, and we got Knights of the Old Republic. And they're just not that anymore. So I'm like, I don't even know who you would call up to do that. Like, do you have any ideas of who would make it?
I don't know gaming companies as well.
I gotcha. I mean, the one that does like Fire Emblem and the style that you were talking about is Intelligent Systems, and They're also a Japanese company, so it'd be interesting to get their take in general, I think.
Yeah.
Because culturally, they don't value Star Wars like Americans do, I guess. And just in general, obviously, there's lots of Japanese fans too. But it'd just be interesting to see it through a different cultural lens, I think, and what they would prioritize more.
That'd be very cool.
I've seen some people suggest that we could maybe benefit from a Star Wars What If series. And I think that is about the only thing that they could get me excited for at this point. That would be like just a lot of weird what ifs, you know, what if Darth Maul didn't get cut in half? What if he won? And they've done that in comics, but I think people are talking more about shows.
Yeah.
But maybe some games of that too would be interesting. What if in the Old Republic the Sith won, and we never got the Republic formed? It was just the Sith Empire. But yeah, that's about all my thoughts on that.
Okay.
I just have more faith if the story group changed some and Disney sold the franchise to someone else. But I don't see that happening in my lifetime. So my solution for the time being for what I would like to see from Star Wars sequels and things, like game sequels from beloved series like Knights of the Old Republic, is just don't.
All right. So how about we move on to Pokemon, and I'll lead this off and then
Sure.
let you jump in. So my biggest want from Pokemon, and Sword and Shield have gotten close, is I want the Skyrim sort of sandbox. I want there to be like a lot more side quests that like can almost become main plots. I want the gym badge thing to sort of take a back burner for a future game. I just want the huge, massive world. I want you to be able to explore all over, maybe making use of some of the original maps from the first game, and as the different like Kanto, Johto, making use of all of those in like a large open sandbox, like really incentivizing like exploring, have the exploring lead to finding Pokemon in more natural environments rather than just kind of randomly walking around. And like Sword got pretty close to this with the what's it called? The Adventure Zone, where you find all the strong Pokemon.
Isn't it like the wild area or something?
Yeah, something like that. The wild area. I want that, but I want that to be like the whole game. And I want the environments to change rather than, oh, this is the ice town. I want there to be like the ice area where you can explore the icy mountains, and that's when you stumble upon Pokemon like that. Blow up a huge, huge map, stuff it full of Pokemon, and let me loose.
That is shockingly similar to the same thing that I want. The only thing I wanted to add was make it an MMO sort of fashion that I can play with friends. And I know why they don't do that. Do you have an idea of why they don't?
My guess would be that kind of the cream of the crop would be like hunting all the super rare Pokemon, and then there wouldn't be enough for everybody. Would be sort of the quick thing that jumps out, that you'd have like the master players that are getting every little bonus thing they put out there, and everyone else is getting left behind. And also Nintendo tends to be pretty gun shy on trendy things, like making movies out of their like IPs. So I would think that they'd be super nervous to like hand their top property over and saying, yeah, let's let everybody play on it at once.
I think that my reasoning for why they don't do that is a little different. I think the big problem is, how would they make a sequel to it?
Yeah, how would you top it?
Yeah, exactly. Once you create a game like that, how do you then sell, whatever comes next? There's just not really anywhere to go from there. And I don't feel like there's a real next after that. That'll kind of be the peak of the franchise. And I think Nintendo knows that. Because if you get everybody playing on the same game, and it's online, people would then say, why do I need to buy Pokemon Sword 2? Why wouldn't you just update Pokemon Sword since it's online with the new Pokemon? And then I can just keep playing that same game. And it becomes like games as a service, which Nintendo has not wanted to do. I'm curious as to how the new one they have announced, like Pokemon Legends Arceus, I think it's called, how close that'll get to sort of what we're wanting. Because I don't think it'll have the multiplayer component, but it does seem to be more open world, like the wild area, and also a different time period. Like it seems more like the Samurai Warrior style Samurai Japan. So maybe there won't be gym badges either. Maybe you'll get that wish.
Yeah. And like I'm fine with the gym badges being there. I just think it'd be fun to not have it be the big mover and pusher of the game.
Yeah, just a different marker of progress.
Exactly. Like it can be your A storyline, but give me like some very, very cool B and C storylines that are more than just like, oh yeah, deliver this letter to Professor Oak. Give me like a really well thought out side story.
Yeah, I feel that. And another just related thing I would like is Samurai Warriors actually did cross over with Pokemon at one point in the game Pokemon Conquest, which ended up being like a Shining Force Fire Emblem sort of thing with Samurai and Pokemon. So I would love to see Pokemon Conquest 2 and also a port of Pokemon Conquest, because that DS game these days is like $80 or something used. So a new version of that is more affordable would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I've got for Pokemon, because I just don't, it's again that sort of same mentality: bigger, better, more. Is there anything you don't want from Pokemon?
I don't think so. I think my request is fairly obvious. I think a lot of people just want that huge like environment, like Breath of the Wild style environment to explore. The assumption would be that whatever follow-up game comes out is gonna just do that.
The closest they've gotten that I've played was not actually a Nintendo one. It was Pixelmon, which is a Minecraft mod, and it just added Pokemon to Minecraft, but it did sort of what you wanted. That was like, you go to the snowy area, and that's where all the snow Pokemon are. If you want a legendary like Lugia, or Kyogre, you need to look in the bottom of the ocean. And they're extremely hard to find. The birds are flying around the sky. Stuff like that. That was pretty close to what I wanted.
Because there's so much, like, Pokemon lore is actually pretty cool. And,
yeah.
Like, dating back to even, like, Silver and Gold, when there were, like, the Cave of the Unknowns. Since the idea is to, like, catch Pokemon and make them friends, maybe give us, like, lean a little bit away from the battle element. Like, oh, I have to duel you. Like, that should still be there, obviously, because that's how it's a game. But like, lean into the exploring and like incentivizing the Pokedex more so than the games have so far.
I would even take it a step further, and something I've wanted has been like Skyrim, give us more jobs. There's people in the game, like the lore for it exists. Like, there's Pokemon breeders in game. Let people like maybe have a level for your trainer or something, and then let people be breeders. And then if it's the sort of the, more online connected fashion, you can just be a breeder. Like, maybe like, I know I'm getting super ambitious here, but like start your own town kind of thing. Another game you could use as a model is Dragon Quest Builders, something kind of like that. Start your own towns. Let people be all sorts of things. Let people be gym leaders. I mean, what else? Pokemon Rangers, let people go out and solve problems. Maybe there's a quest line for that. Any sort of avatar that you've seen, the buff guy that does judo and he has all fighting Pokemon. Like, let me be that guy and have all fighting Pokemon and like fight in a dojo or something. Like, I don't know. That's sort of where I would want to take it.
Yeah, because you could even have a quest like, oh, this such and such gym leader is going to be like away for a week. Can you watch over his gym? And like maybe like that comes with like its own sort of like responsibilities, and then you get to do that for a week. You battle trainers and hand out badges and whatever else they'd choose to involve that in. But I think that would be great. Any other thoughts for that one?
I think that's about it.
This ends part 1 of our Hopes for Future RPG games. Our next episode will be part 2, where we will get into Samurai Warriors, Shining Force, Fire Emblem, and a few other RPGs. Please rate and subscribe. Also, leave a comment letting us know what you would like to see from future releases. We took our turn, and we would love for you to take yours. We can be found on Instagram and Facebook under the Turn by Turn Podcast. Bye, everybody.